I'll hand it off to our first presenting artist. Allan Coding joins us right now to introduce himself and also the presentation that he has to showcase this evening. Good evening, Allan. So I think we have you muted. We're going to try to fix that, Allan. I think we may have you muted on your end. Introduce
Can you hear
yourself.
me now?
We can hear you now. So introduce yourself and also your presentation. We'll get right to it.
Okay, my name is Allan Colden. I'm a drummer, native Detroiter, and been pretty much here all of my life. I have traveled other places and lived in other places. I lived in Senegal, West Africa for 3.5 years, and I've lived in New York and in Chicago and California, and I performed in all of those cities as well. So
Wow.
the music is what I do. And I've basically been a sideman all of my life, all of my musical life, meaning that I haven't really led bands, but I've always been in the position of being a support person in the band.
Awesome, awesome. Well, we are all excited to hear more about your artistry and to watch your presentation, which will get underway and will showcase right now.
Okay. Hi, this is Allan Colden. I'm a Detroit drummer with national and international experience. And I want to talk a little bit about the importance of sidemen or the role of sidemen in a band. The thought to do this talk came to me at a recent concert where I performed. I heard some people talking, and one of them said that they wanted to sit close to the stage to hear the band leader and I guess the featured soloist, because they felt like those were the most important people in the band. And I took great exception to that. And up to that point, I felt like that was something that the general music fan knows, that there is no one important person over one person is no more important than the others in a collaborative effort. And that's exactly what a music performance is. When the musicians hit the bandstand, it's a collaborative effort, and no one person is more important than the other. For those who don't know what a sideman is, I'm going to read the definition that I have for it. A sideman is a professional musician who performs as part of a musical group, but is not the leader or the main soloist of a group. Sidemen provide support for the lead musicians, and they play a crucial role in shaping the sound and style of the music and the band. Our musical contributions in the form of embellishments help to make the music more interesting and engaging for the listeners. Number two, we help set the mood and atmosphere for the music, and we provide cues and signals to the soloists to help them stay on track. And lastly, number three, a sideman can bring out the best in the soloist by drawing attention to their strengths and playing and drawing down their weaknesses. So we're responsible for a lot here. We basically playing a support role, but at the same time, we're also we're playing a support role for the soloist, okay? But at the same time, we have to listen to each other. And when I'm saying, I'm referring to like the rhythm section, the bass and the drums, and you may have a guitar player, or you may have a percussionist, a hand drummer, but you have to listen to each other at all times. That's crucial. because you can't just play anything that you want to play. You have to be played. You have to play in context. And in order to do that, you got to have real big ears. Okay. And I mean, these are things that I thought that the average music lover or a person who's familiar with music at all, even as a fan, you don't have to be a musician, but just even as a fan, I was thinking, and I've always thought that music fans pay a lot of attention to the music. They know a lot. They're very well educated about the music, and I was kind of surprised to hear someone say something like this person said at the concert. Um, but again, for those who may think that there's more emphasis placed on one player on the bandstand than the other. That's some it's kind of a sticky kind of thing, because while I'm saying that there's no one person that's more important than the other, I understand how that perception can be had and how it's made, because you got the guy standing out on the front line, and the leader of the band, he's looking like he's calling all the shots. Well, in reality, uh, if if any one of the band members do something that's contrary to what's supposed to go on, then the whole effort is shot. Okay, and I mean, it's up to all of the musicians to be able to execute their part. Okay, to listen, like I said before, to listen to each other, to play well enough to support each other, to play in context, and that way you get a performance that's being executed properly, precise, and is clean and comes off as good sounding music. Okay? And what I'm basically trying to communicate here is that sidemen in a band are just as important as the cats on the front line. We all have a responsibility. Be there, they may be different, but we all have a responsibility, and they're all just as important. And the music that I'm playing currently in this band that I'm working with now, sometimes there are no melodies, okay? And everybody's playing a solo. Everybody's soloing. And well, I don't want to necessarily call it solo, but it's everybody's making statements and contributions to the sound, to the tone, to the mood of the music. And sometimes it's questionable as to whether or not it should be even called. It should be looked at as just a regular entertainment type of music. If you get entertained by it, fine. But if it heals you, and it just may, that's even better.
Awesome, awesome. I loved your piece there, and I see that we see the drums in the background. Your drum set in the background there. Those are the ones that you personally play yourself.
Yeah, these are one of my sets. Yeah,
One of
right.
your sets.
Yeah.
We're going to get to questions that anyone may have in just a moment. We'll check the chat in just a second. So again, if you have any questions and any comments or feedback you'd like to leave us, we will be checking those in the chat in just a moment. I want to start off with a question of my own for a second.
Mhm.
Interesting enough, you say you took offense to, when someone would say, this this act or artistry in a band as if one person can do it all on their own, right? It reminds me of it takes teamwork to make the dream work. That's
Absolutely.
that saying. The side man, how important or critical do you think uh, is the effort when it comes to being able to listen and manage all of these different components of, of music or performance that's happening at the same time? Because you're making someone else look good, but everyone has to play their part.
Yeah, well, when you're on the bandstand, I don't care how many musicians are up there, you all become one. Okay, and you have specific things that you have to do, and you have a specific role to play, and you make what I mean. I'm not talking about just reading the music and playing the music properly. Okay, but it's also like I said, listening to each other and responding to each other in the proper contextual way, so that you're not standing out like a sore thumb playing something that's not irrelevant, that's not relevant to what's being played. Okay, you don't want to play above the soloist. You don't want to play under the soloist. You want to play right there. You want to help accompany that guy or that lady, and you want to give them something to play on. A lot of times it's referred to, you want to give them some ground to walk on. You know, you want them to feel comfortable and secure enough to be able to reach out and stretch out and do whatever they want to do without any feelings of insecurity. Okay, they have to know that everything's going to be okay. If they go to the left, they have to know that you're going to the left too. Okay, they're not going to leave you, or you're not going to go to the right and leave them. So it's all a group effort. It's
A group
and
and
you can only do that by listening to each other and responding to each other. You got to squash your ego and
mm,
play together. You
wow.
know.
And I guess being in a band could really check someone's ego at the front door. But I love,
Or it'll check yours. It'll squash you.
yeah, I love that we can learn this through music, right? And being in a band and a side man, you are, but an important role that you have. Let's check to see if we have any questions in the chat. You are welcome to present your questions or comments that you may have. We would love to get to them at any time during the presentation. I believe we may have some. Ebony?
Yes, we have a question. It says, you mentioned that this art form is more for healing than entertainment. Can you share how, when the music drumming became healing for you and what that experience was like?
It's
Hmm,
always been healing for me, even as a kid when I was learning to play. Even before I started learning to play, take lessons, I would always just, make uh, hit on things, making rhythms. It was always comforting for me to do that. Uh, it was, I guess, getting out frustration sometimes, and uh, I know from as when I lived in Senegal, okay, and I talked with many of the drummers there and the traditional drummers there who played the djembe and the various other drum families there. Found out how the drum itself and the rhythms that they play all had purpose. Okay, and you had drums that they would use for harvesting vegetables and the plants. Okay, you had drums that was used to make it rain. You had drums that was used for um, childbirth, and there were drums like that djembes that are made that only women can play. Okay,
Oh,
and
wow.
there are also the drums that only men play, of course, and the whole idea here is that the drum has a purpose, and that purpose is to be as close to you, and you be as close to it. It's an extension of yourself. Okay, it's an inanimate object, of course, but it's also a part of you. What you put into that drum comes from you, and it's your spirit. And I remember when I wanted to learn to play the djembe, to take lessons from a master in Senegal, in Dakar. He told me that we started out talking, just talking, There was no playing of any drum. Okay. And he told me that I had to learn the history of the drum, what it was used for, how it's used, and then I would have to find a tree and make friends with that tree and then cut part of that tree to make my own drum and breathe my spirit into that drum. But that wouldn't be for a while. So unfortunately, I had to leave Senegal before all of that happened. But had I stayed there, that's what would have had to happen before I even touched the drum. And I know I hear a lot of people say that they went to Africa and they studied under this master and studied under that. Yeah, you may have gotten a few lessons, but to get really deeply into what that instrument is and to how it's used in that culture, you have to do it the way that I was told, to do. And go ahead.
This is interesting as well. And our brief question, answer, response here. I think you played all over, right, on so many different stages. And as they say, music is universal. But I'll
Yeah.
ask you this question: has your work changed or evolved since the pandemic?
Well, the way I look at music is that it's a living, breathing organism. Okay, and it changes second by second. As we live. Uh, what I play yesterday, I can't play today the same way. It just don't happen that way. And it's not a mechanical thing. It's it's just as we live and we grow and we learn things and we change as individuals, our music, our expression changes. Okay, and so the music has to change as well. What's going to come out of or what came out of me at the age of 20 ain't coming out of me today. It's a whole different ball game.
It's more seasoned, and it still sounds good.
Well, that's good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Do we have
Thank you
any more
much.
questions in the chat?
Yes, I have a question. I wanted to know, how has coming back to Detroit shifted from like all that inspiration and deep knowledge and just the vibration of being in Senegal and then coming back to Detroit? Has it translated well, or has it been some moments of like, you got to get back, or just get back to that space of vibration? Or is it still here, or just how has that shifted?
All I can say is that, yeah, I want to go back to Senegal. Yeah, I do. And that has more to do with for social reasons and cultural reasons, and more so than just the music. I mean, as far as the music I play, I'd rather be here. Okay, not that they don't appreciate what the music is, because they love jazz music. Okay, and they love rhythm and blues music. James Brown was one of the most popular musicians in Dakar. And you could turn the radio on over there. You hear Motown, and you hear anything from Motown to the most avant-garde out jazz recordings you can imagine. You could hear Albert Ayler over there, and I saw Pharoah Sanders over there, and got the chance to talk with him a lot. And so when I didn't see, but I know Dizzy Gillespie spent a lot of time in Dakar. Okay, and they love Dizzy Gillespie, and so they're very much aware of what we do, and I became aware of their popular music, and I did get a chance to meet and perform with some of their more popular musicians at that time over there, and yeah, it's kind of like I love the culture there. I love being in Africa. Okay, but at the same time, it's a different culture. It's not what I grew up in. And so the music that I play is here primarily. If I wanted to put together a band, I'm going to look for musicians from here that can play this type of music, that our indigenous music here, because they have their thing and we got ours.
Awesome. I think we're checking the
But
chat.
let me also say this, that You can
Okay.
learn to play what if they accept you into what they do, they will teach you how to do it. Okay.
Yeah.
And by the same token, it works the other way too. There have been some brothers come over here from Senegal and from other parts of Africa to learn to play our music here, to play jazz
Wow.
music. And we teach them, and it works both ways. It's a sharing thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we got another comment or question in the chat. So we're checking again with Ebony.
Yes, this question says, Ali, how do you create a drumming style when there's so much change impacting your sound?
Mm.
Hmm. Well,
It makes you think.
yeah, but it's like your drumming style is something that comes from your heart. Okay. What we think and what we know is all stored up in your brain here. Okay. What we feel is coming out of your heart. Okay. And how you emit that, you're not really in control of it. It just comes out the way it comes out, and you transmit that rather in however way that thing comes out, it just comes out. When I play straight ahead swinging music, there's certain things that I play because there's certain things that I hear that only I hear in this particular way. Okay. And I'm not saying I'm so special or anything, but I'm saying we're all different individuals, and we have we hear things differently as individuals. Okay. And in other words, how I'm going to translate what I hear and respond to what I'm hearing is different from what you would do it. Okay. You play something different, so I don't think that I direct that, and I don't spend time trying to determine or trying to change that, because I know I can't do it. That's a natural thing. That's what our creator did for us. Okay. Am I making sense?
Absolutely. I think I could listen to you all day because I'm just fascinated by uh, just the work and artistry that goes into, uh, you know, the work that you do and being a part of a band and how music is just such universal. So, Allan, we're gonna come back to you in just a moment as we
Okay.
proceed towards the end of the program here with final questions. But now we're going to transition to our next presenting artist who joins us right now. Nova Zaii joins us at this time. Good evening, sir. Please give us your name and a brief introduction into what we can expect to see this evening.
What's going on, y'all? Thank you so much, Andre. And thank you, Mr. Coleman, for all the ways that you are blessing the Detroit scene and the world with your music and with your sound and your concepts. I really gleaned a lot from that, especially as a fellow drummer.
Okay.
Definitely, man. Yeah, I'm Nova Zaii. I reside in Detroit. I'm originally from Chicago. Actually, where I'm currently am right now. My band, the Juju Exchange, is preparing to drop an album on Thursday. So I'm here preparing for that. But what you can expect in this video are just snapshots from my career to date. I kind of just am flowing from all different aspects of my practice as a drummer, as a composer, producer, and a performer. So yeah, I hope you all can glean something from my practice as an instrumentalist, and also appreciate some of the concepts and the philosophies that I roll with, and that guides my creative spirit after the video.
Absolutely. Well, from those Chi-Town roots to embracing those Detroit music scene roots, we're glad to have you.
Thank y'all,
Let's check
man.
out your presentation right now.
I'm Zaii. I'm a drummer, producer, and some call me an inventor, as I invented the Nova portals, which you see right here beside me, which is an instrument that I designed to essentially play space. I don't need to touch the instrument in order to activate sound, so I wave my hands back and forth, and sound is created. The drums are a very contact-based instrument, so I wanted to create something that's a little more spiritual in nature, and I'll just do a little demonstration.
What's up, everybody? Hope you all are nice and comfy. We're so excited to share this night with you. We are the Juju Exchange, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Electronic producer, drummer, Nova Zaii. I'm just trying to channel your Nova Portals energy. Like, that is amazing. Like, this is so dope. Talk to us about like just being this visionary artist, like of creating this touchless instrument. How did you go about it? And how does it inform how the type of artist you want to be and how you captivate audiences with what you're doing?
Yeah, fantastic question. I first came up with the concept and the device itself as a part of a class at the University of Michigan, actually, and we were charged with the operation of building an instrument with sensors, and then
Yeah.
I followed up with that project as pursuing my senior thesis and basically presenting a more refined version as my senior thesis, and then doing that along with my senior recital. So the way it informs my practice, though, I really resonate with what Mr. Colding was saying earlier
Mm.
about putting your spirit into the music. You know, I use the name Nova Zaii kind of spiritually, and Nova is a word that I use to evoke a sense of essence. You know, evoke a sense of the essence that animates a person's being. And
Mm.
so the Nova portals, it's kind of like you're imbuing your essence into the instrument by interacting with space in a way that is both concrete, because the instrument itself is designed to be visible, you
Yeah.
know, but what it's evoking is an interaction with the invisible, the untouchable, that
Mm.
kind of ineffable expression that's a part of all of us. You know what I'm saying? We are much more than just our physical embodiment, you know. And it's this feeling that you get when you sense the space between my hand and the device, you know, and the way that I respond, my body responds when I'm playing it, you know, that's where that Nova kind of comes out. So the Nova portals, you know, and Nova Zaii, they kind of go hand in hand. That's kind of how I was resonating with what Mr. Colding was saying earlier, especially.
We love it. We love it. And if you have any questions, anyone who's watching, make sure that you submit your questions. We'd love to hear from you. We'll get to your questions and your comments if we have any. So feel free to do so. Another question that I do have is, we were seeing in your presentation the the different the sounds and how you orchestrated your hands and movement. Like, can you replicate a particular sound in your music the same way each and every time you hover over the Nova portals, or is it a different um, way about it? Like how you read music, right? And every time you hit a keyboard or hit, is there a different sound each time you hover your hand over it, or is it something a different or new expression each time?
Yeah, you know, we're using the word new right now, and I can't help but think about the fact that Nova actually means new. And that is a principle that really charges what how I program
Mm,
the device to respond, because it's all programming. You know, you can program it to make whatever sound you want. You know, the other
yeah.
day I was messing around with the sound of a motorcycle, and I was bending and stretching that. You know,
Mm,
and yeah, so depending on how you program it, you can program it to sequence sounds. You can program it to be extravolative. in a way that, you know, it's always generating new sounds. Or if you wanted to make the same sound every time so that you know what you're going to play when you go to wave your hand, then you could do that as well. But it really depends on how you configure it to express whatever you need to in whatever context.
Yeah. And we're going to come to questions I believe we may have in the chat. We'll check that right now. Let's see if we have anything here in the chat.
Okay, we have 3, but I have like 10. So the first question is, can you explain the interplay of physical movement and music in your practice? Are you a dancer as well?
That's a great question, and I do usually get it. I usually get that question because I don't really think of myself as a dancer on a professional level, but I like to think of my practice as, you know, I become whatever I need to become to express that essence that I was talking about before. So,
Oh, come on. You were getting the dance moves at the end there. I saw you. I saw you did it.
yeah, so it's like I'm a dancer because I dance. Do I dance on like yeah, I've never like really done it from a disciplined choreograph perspective, but I do it because that's what I feel in my spirit as I'm interacting with the device. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I would say yes, yes. Simple answer is yeah.
Awesome question. They're going to check some more questions in the chat. Ebony?
Yes, and so the next is your Jex asks, your stage show is so immersive. What kind of experience are you trying to create for your audience?
Yeah, I love thinking about the word immersive whenever I'm creating anything, whether it's a show or even just my music, my compositions. I really try and create this. So one of my favorite memories as a kid was going under that parachute thing. You know how you'd be in a ring and you'd be in a big field, everybody would throw it up, and you go under. And I used to be so excited because I just felt like we were all experiencing like this really intimate, you know, but also very expansive experience. And I used to like seeing my friend. I don't even know what we were doing under there. It was just like we were running around, but like the feeling is like that just stayed with me. I also love building forts, you know, so it's kind of like that childlike joy that I still feel inside me of being immersed and close to people, but yet having a lot of room to play around and be free, you know, really feeling like we're all experiencing something together. You know, like our hearts are both expanding, but also coming kind of congealing in a way I think is really important. And I think it all comes from a desire to like make people feel cared for, make people feel like they have a space to um, explore and just have fun and also experience something vividly, you know, and expansively.
Yeah, and that really goes to the heart of what was going to be my question to you next is what do you hope that people take away from your work? But what is it that you find as a source of inspiration and joy?
Yo, my life experiences, you know, I I feel like with Zaii, my Zaii project, my solo project in particular, it's so biographical. And, you know, whether it's the music or a show that I'm preparing or even just the Nova portals, like I feel like so much of my life experiences, particularly my challenges and my triumphs,
Yeah.
inspire the continual progression of the music and of the creation. And yeah, I typically find that there's this sense of overcoming that very much, yeah, it's consistent in everything I do as Nova Zaii, and in a different way than when I'm working in collaborative contexts. I think, you know, creating is there are birth pains in creating anything, you know, so it's gonna definitely stretch and grow you. But I think because Nova Zaii is so close to my personal identity, uh, the way I see my soul and my character grow, get challenged, you know, refined by fire, that ends up being huge inspiration for when I'm on stage and I'm playing and I feel like this is it. This moment of sharing my music, anytime I drop music, um, it feels like I've arrived in a way, but also I've been arriving. I like the process of creating that and going through whatever you need to go through in order to get it to people is also in its own way a sense of arriving. Like I'm practicing that sensibility.
Yeah.
So I would say that's one of my biggest inspirations, is the way God takes me through all that.
Awesome. And it leads me to ask this next question because, and I alluded to it earlier with Allan, is, this pandemic has really changed the way people uh, have really interacted in some ways more closely with music to get through troubling times, or the the pandemic shut us down, but the music kept going in some ways. And music is universal. It continues in new ways and new facets online. Um, how has as music evolves, how have you evolved in how the pandemic has really forced us to change the way we do things?
Yeah. That first piece that started the video was a composition that I worked on during the pandemic. It was when
Mm.
everything was awry, like especially around that March, April time. People were talking about martial law. It was like high intense. And we didn't know it was gonna pop off because everything felt like it was really hitting the fan.
But
And
it sparked some creativity, obviously.
no, it did. And what's crazy is that the name Zaii actually was an 8-year journey of trying to discover what was an alias, this kind of alternative identity that I wanted to use to embody the creative mission that I have on this earth. And it actually arrived. I'm saying it arrived, but I went through the process of concocting these letters, these words to capture exactly what I wanted to capture.
Yeah.
The beginning of 2020, right before the pandemic. So this long journey, this 8-year long journey that I took to discover that, came right before the pandemic. And that's when I started to have more of an understanding, of more cohesive vision for what I wanted to present to the world as Zaii, as this artist,
Yeah.
And so I as the name came, and as the specific, I think nomenclature is the word, I would use that as almost like a lighthouse, to guide how I'm creating, and to guide the overall vision that I have for even minute details as to how I want to compose and how I want to sound design, and that song in particular, Butterfly, the first one with the wings and me sitting in that chair just kind of miming out energy movements.
Yeah.
That song in and of itself really was this. Earlier I said my work is very biographical, and that was essentially the evidence of the transformation that was coming about after claiming this name, and really becoming this identity of Zaii, in a new way. So it's really like a revelation of sorts.
Awesome. Awesome. I want to bring back in Allan Coding so we can have a conversation with the both of you for a moment. With final questions here, Allan, I want to go to you for a moment and say, what is it that you hope that people are inspired by and take away from your work?
That's really a hard thing for me to answer. That's a hard question for me to answer, because for so long, it's not that I don't care what people think, but the way I've always approached performing and just playing anything, as long as I achieve what my objectives are,
Mm-hmm.
that's what's the most important thing for me, because it's I'm not, I don't feel like I'm trying to entertain people. Okay. I'm trying to express what's in my heart. Okay. And if I hit that, if I do that, if I feel like I've expressed myself, then I'm good with that. That's my concern. If you like it, that's fine. If you don't like it, that's fine too. Okay. So what you take away from it, I hope, it would be something akin to what I'm feeling inside of me. And that's something that we could dialogue about. We could feel that we would have kindred spirit. We could say a similar type of feeling about the same thing.
Yeah.
That's all.
And we're still taking questions. So if you would like to weigh in on the conversation, if you have any questions or comments, we'd like to hear from you as well. On the other side of this question, though, Nova's, you heard Mr. Coding talk about earlier about, when you're in a band, there is this sense of collaboration that must take place. There is no one person that is pulling the strings, if you will. It's a cohesive effort that comes together where everyone has to be of one sound. And certainly, you have your band with Juju Exchange. Do you see the same sentiments in what he was saying?
Yeah, most certainly. I think there's always well, actually, that sense of exchange is very integral to the name that we gave ourselves. And actually, the term juju means to give and receive amongst two unmarried persons, specifically in the Japanese context. And so we take that notion of exchanging, contributing something, contributing your essence, your Zaii, so to speak, um, and exchanging that with somebody else's ideas, musical contributions. And so I think that's also just a very important model for a healthy society, to listen but also contribute meaningfully.
Absolutely. Let's get to those questions in the chat. I'm going to check with Ebony to see what people are saying and what they'd like to know from the both of you. Let's see any questions we may have from the chat, Ebony.
Yeah, so we have two questions here for Nova, and we have one for the both of them. So the two questions for Nova, the first is utilizing your portals when you're performing solo different than when you're performing with others? And is this experience different for you?
That
Like
second,
that.
that second question is this experience different for me? I'll answer the first one first. I'll answer the first. I definitely experience a difference when it's just me in the portals, and when I'm playing the portals in context with a band. I think there is, first of all, a lot more programming. It's like technically a lot heftier a mission to play a whole show with just the portals, and me. And it's very fun because it's liberating in a different sense, because I am able to tell more of a story with the portals. And when I'm with the band, there are different ways that we can utilize the technology to say something different than I wouldn't otherwise on my own. So the way Mr. Colding earlier was talking a lot about listening, and you can't just play whatever when you're in a collaborative context. You can't just be chattering. That's something I tell my students a lot, my drum students. And so in the same way, it's like the Nova portals, albeit they're novel, they're this new technology, they still have to make musical sense in context with other instruments. So when I'm playing with trumpet, my homie Nico Siegel on trumpet, and Julian Reed, my brother, on piano, we still are very intentional about making the portals a meaningful part of the experience, and not just something that's like this auxiliary, kind of what's the word I'm looking for?
Yeah.
It's escaping me right now, but it's something that's just kind of there just to be there.
And then we had a question for
Gimmick. That's the one I was looking for. Gimmick. Gimmick. We want it to be gimmicky. That's what. Yeah. For sure.
Yeah, no one wants to be gimmicky. Then we had another question in the chat for Allan.
Yes, and so this question I think applies to both Allan and Nova. It is, how do you push through the birth pains challenges of creating?
Well, when times are hard, I always consider the alternative, if there is an alternative. I mean, if I'm not doing a thing, then what else would I be doing, or what would be the consequences of me not being successful at what I'm trying to do? Okay, so I mean, there have been many times when I've thought about, well, I'm just not getting what I want to get out of playing this music or playing these drums. And I have to stop and say, well, if you're not going to play the drums, then what else are you going to do? Okay. And I always come back to, well, there's nothing more that I want to do other than playing the drums. So that's your answer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And same thing for you, no,
Yeah,
Zaii?
yeah, that's a good way of putting it. I like to remember that I really do feel like just from even from high school, I was experiencing a lot of sense of vision, big dreams, and a lot of clarity as to what I'm supposed to do on this earth. And I felt a certain sense of prophetic power over it. I'm not even saying that to be esoteric, but it really just means faith. You know, I really do have faith that we as creators are here to do something on purpose. And there are so many moments in the journey
Yeah.
when that sense of vision gets completely blotted out. And all of a sudden everything seems impossible. I can't tell you how many times I was working on the portals from all different aspects, whether it's a technical thing. You know, I was soldering in the video, like moments where I'm supposed to play a show and I gotta solder something again. It's like these moments that feel like, yo, this is about to, this is impossible. Like I literally have that feeling. But then
Yeah.
you remember those moments where you had it so clear in your mind and in your heart and your soul that this is going to happen. You necessarily know how. You know, it's not always clear like what the path is going to look like exactly, but you know that it's going to happen one way or another. Sometimes it means compromising what you thought was going to be the case. You know, sometimes it means taking a few levels down from the stars that you were shooting for and landing on the moon, which is still out of space. You feel me? But regardless, like keeping that stalwart sense of purpose, vision, and committed devotion to the fact that you're here to do this. Like you're going to get that joint done. I'm sorry, the ASL. You're going to get that thing done. Make sure you put the thing in there. You feel me? Put that thing in there. You're gonna get it done. You know what I'm saying? So that's how I stick it out.
But there's always this ongoing work to hone in the craft and some sense of perfection when it comes to artists. And you know, it leads me to ask this question. So both of you were provided an opportunity to present your work on this program, on this platform, in a way that best fitted you, right? Why did you choose this format to share with us your work, Allan?
Well, it was an opportunity. Yeah, I mean, it's an opportunity to be exposed to the public. So whenever you're given that opportunity, whenever I'm given that opportunity, I'm going to take it. Okay, no matter what the venue is. I just hope that it's something that I'm exposing myself to the public in a positive manner, and that I'll get a positive results back from it. You know, and I mean, some exposure beats no exposure.
No.
I highly agree with that. Yeah, and I also just think it's a good thing to practice telling the story. You know, I think
Yeah.
what I experience internally, you know, going like I said earlier, going through life experiences and working behind the scenes on things, occasionally popping my head up to share. Not occasionally, obviously, but you know, there's so much work that goes on beyond just what people can see on a stage. You know, beyond what people can see on an Instagram post or whatever. You know, and I think it brings me a lot of joy to let people in on what else is happening, you know, in a way that doesn't involve, oh, let me just put a camera on me in the studio and show me, you know, doing all this stuff, or like show the pro.
Right.
That's not necessarily my style all the time. So I like just, you know, telling people, look, there's a lot more that's going into this than just what meets the eye.
And we're still taking your questions, your comments. I believe we have a little bit more time, right? So let's
I had one more answer. I'm sorry, if you wanted
oh,
to.
absolutely. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah. From your question earlier, the person asking about birth pains, I just wanted to add too that, you know, it's not all a solo experience. I think when I'm really experiencing a lot of challenges and a lot of stress, I find a lot of solace in the support in community and in collaborators, and that's how Nova Portals has really been going beyond what I've been able to do by myself. I've been working with the brilliant engineer here in Detroit, Will Lawson. He goes by Gallons, who's been tapping into the vision of what the portals are, what they have been, and what they're going to be. And finding that kind of relationship, on a ground level has been so pivotal to just the overall operation, or making music with my band is so refreshing when I've been in the studio, just like with headphones on, thinking really hard about my own music, getting out of my head in all these different ways, I think really, really helps. So I just wanted to stress that because, often I'm talking about my own personal experience because it is so deeply personal and it will always be, even in collaborative encounters. But something that's so transformative in those moments is reaching out for help, reaching out, even just to have conversations with my friends. I'll be talking to my friends a lot in the studio, I'm just needing a time to breathe. So that was just something really important that I wanted to add on to my previous answer.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sometimes I feel like for me, in terms of getting past difficult spots, difficult moments, and, fortunately, I'd say for me, I'm also an illustrator and graphic designer. Okay, and sometimes, and I do fine art as well. I draw and paint. Okay, and when something is not going the way I'm feeling, that I'm not feeling it. Okay, I'm able to just put it down and walk away and do something else. Okay, but fortunately, I'm able to do something that's creative. Okay, so a lot of times I'll just put my drumsticks down and pick up a pencil or a paintbrush and start painting and just relax, clear my head, and look at it at a different way. And I'm often asked, well, how can you do music and visual art as well? And my answer to that is that they're both the same thing. Okay. And it's just one is a particular avenue for expression, and the other one is another avenue for expression. But both of them are avenues for expression. Okay, and they're the same thing. Period.
Yeah.
They're creative outlets, and that's all it is. But yeah, I mean, I can get away from the music and clear my head and come back and approach it fresh and have a new experience. And that's what I do.
I love that. I love that. As artists, we are creatives and we wear multiple hats all
Yeah,
at once. So
all the time,
I love that all the time. You're
all of the
absolutely
time.
right. The
Sometimes
question,
it gets really crazy. Like when I was working, I was a graphic designer, the lead graphic designer for the Museum of African American History at one time. And also after that, I was a graphic designer and fabricator for the Detroit Science Center. And I was trying to handle all of that and play music,
wow.
and play music. And it got to the point where I said, well, look, this ain't gonna work, but you're gonna have to do something different here. So I started to compartmentalize things.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I knew I had to have a means to, I had to have the income to perpetuate my life, to pay bills and because I wasn't making a lot of money playing music here at the time. But
Yeah.
when you compartmentalize things and you schedule things out, and try and stick to those schedules, it kind of works out.
Yeah. As we begin to close soon, I do have this question, and we'll also come to public comments in the chat in just a moment. This question to both of you, briefly, Nova, Zaii, what is a dream project for you? What does that look like? What is it?
Wow. I have several dream projects. I definitely want to do some like crazy site specific Nova Portals performances, like in Antarctica or something, like something that you just wouldn't expect. Maybe that's not specifically it, but you know what I'm saying? Like environment is so important. And I think, raising attention to the fact that the earth is burning right now, figuratively and literally. It's definitely a dream project, especially because the future, there's a lot of stakes involved. So I would love to do something with that. I also just want to get instrumental music more in the public awareness and appreciation like it was back in the 20th century, especially, and however that needs to happen, whether it's playing the Nova Portals an instrumental presentation for the Grammys, like something that is that you just wouldn't expect. You know what I'm saying? Like you wouldn't expect to have the Nova Portals or a non-singer on a Tonight Show. Like that's just not done anymore, done as much anymore. And I think stuff like that would be really cool.
Mr. Cody, what is a dream project that perhaps you've touched or would like to achieve?
In the past, I've worked in collaborative presentations with, I guess for lack of a better word, some of the avant-garde musicians here in Detroit, in collaboration with some of the same types of musicians from Chicago, from the AACM, what's the name of that? I forgot what the AACM stands for, but it's the Association for the Advancement of Creative Musicians. Okay, and we did collaborative presentations and musical presentations, and it really came off really nice. Unfortunately, the venue that we were playing in was very small. And what I would like to do is, I'm in the process now of planning to do something else like that, but I want to have it in a much larger venue. And I would like to engage on a regular basis more musicians to play life music, what I call life music, okay? Or where you're playing what's in you, your feelings, you're playing what you've experienced, and no matter where these musicians may exist, I would like for this music to share the same importance in society as a symphony orchestra's music would, because this music is just as important, and I consider what we do as musicians, we are the creative musicians. We don't sit up and read notes off paper, okay? In the beginning, we read notes off paper to memorize the tune, okay? Once you've memorized it, that's when the music starts. That's when the creativity starts. Because you know what you're supposed to be playing, you know what note goes where, what chord's being played where. That's the roadmap, okay? But then after you've learned that, then you could, you feel free to start mashing on it, man. You play some music on it and make it something. You make it something that's coming from your heart. You make it yours, okay? And so I would like more exposure for this music and to an upgrade and more of a recognition, for creative musicians, I remember but seeing an interview with this drummer, Terry Lynn Carrington, and she was saying that Herbie Hancock and Wayne Shorter told her not to play music anymore, but to play life. And that's about where I am too. Play your life.
And my apologies. You are muted right now, Andre. So I am going to stop your video, or your video can go on so you can unmute. Apologies for that.
Yes, apologies for that. Just a little technical bite there, but we're back. So I love that. Not to play music, but to play life. I love that a lot. I think we have some questions in the chat. That's where we will wrap up and conclude tonight with perhaps questions or comments from our online audience joining us. Ebony?
Yes, I just want to stop and say I'm such a fan. I just really appreciate listening to both of you and just the spirituality that has just been resonating during this conversation, the thoroughness, the in-depthness. I'm always full after these salons, and it's just so nice to be full once more again. So just want to share that to both of you.
Yes, the both of you have poured in so much. I'm going to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah, so the question that I have is for both of you. I'm so impressed by you. What are you impressed by? And this is a question for both of you. Like at this point, what are you both impressed by?
I'm really impressed by all kinds of design. Um, I really love going to art museums, and things that aren't necessarily explicitly music, and then hearing sound as a result. Like, even actually just going to the lake in Chicago or Belle Isle in Detroit. You know, being amongst the trees. These ways that music can be evoked in my mind in that kind of silent place from things that aren't music. I really I find a lot of inspiration, and I'm very impressed by those things. And I'm also just impressed by the people around me being themselves. I really really just love, you know, it's interesting because like the notion of being impressed usually implies that someone's doing something extra, someone's doing something particularly extravagant to warrant attention. But sometimes the things that crack me up in life that like give me the most joy are just people looking at something a certain way or walking a certain way or like pronouncing a word a certain way, and I'm like, yo, that's it. Like that just makes me feel like it lights me up. And so sometimes the things that are most impressive are the things that are most unimpressive from like a I guess a standard metric per se.
It's the little things.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Same question for you, Alan.
Well, what's impressive to me is this whole creation that our Creator has created.
Mm.
Um, the world, everything that we live in. I mean, we didn't create any. Men didn't create any of this. Okay, and we didn't create the air that we breathe. We didn't grow the food that comes out the ground that we eat. And we don't perpetuate life. And our
Mhm.
Creator is the one that did and does, and that's what impresses me. And that's what I try and keep in front of me all the time, to stay humble and to respect that, to respect life that's around me that I did not create, and to respect my own life that I did not create, and to know that there is a Creator that that breathed, that gave us all the breath of life,
Mm.
and to just respect that and to be aware of it and to celebrate that, and to live a life of humility in a way, you know. So that's what I try and keep my mind focused on. When I see, like Nova will say, when you see people being themselves, that's that's the kind of thing that impresses me as well. The more natural you are, and the more true to yourself that you are, and true to the way that you really are, not put on airs, or not try and be like you've been, not try and behave in ways that you've been taught to behave, you know, but let your true nature come out. Just be who
Yeah.
you are, the way that your Creator created you to be. And that's what impresses me.
I love that. I so love that. If we have any other public comments in the chat, then
I'll just share that we have just some amens in the chat, some say that you make me want to go make some art. We have
uh,
some hope emojis.
look at what the both of you are doing, inspiring so many people, and just the love for the both of you, artistry and perspectives. I guess finally, I'll leave with this question tonight from the both of you. Like I said earlier, music is so universal, and we can all learn from one another. And I think even tonight is a perfect example of how we're doing just that, learning from one of the both of you experience in this realm. Allan, what would you say to a younger generation uh, who would like to follow in your footsteps or who have aspirations um, in the music industry or being a creative like Nova Zaii? What words of inspiration would you provide?
What I've already said.
Mm.
Be yourself,
Hmm.
play your life. Um, don't get hung up in trying to accommodate or how can I put it? Don't sacrifice your creative identity
Hmm.
for a dollar or two. Okay. And what I mean by that is don't take gigs for the sole purpose of financial gain. You know, if it's something that's not in accord with what's in your heart, then if it's not in your heart, then I don't think it's for you to do. You
Hmm.
know, and I think we realize the most success in our lives when we do the things that's been put in our heart to do. And um, yeah, just stay true to to what you want to do. And I mean, you picked up an instrument for a reason. At an early age, you picked up that instrument because you liked it, you enjoyed playing that instrument. You came back to it because you enjoyed playing it. You picked it up every day because you enjoyed playing. Keep it that way.
Hmm.
Keep it that way. That'll help you to live a longer life, and that'll keep you playing music.
I love it. I love it. No, as similar question, what inspiration would you lend to, uh, you know, to young people who are growing up you know, who want to be transformative in the music industry? Um, but in what ways can both young generation and more seasoned individuals in the music profession, how can we all learn from each other? There's always the one way in how a different generation may have been groundbreaking in their music form, and then another generation that comes along with all these other new ideas and instruments and tools such as social media that brings to life another new era of music. What would be your words of inspiration into everyone just coming together?
Yeah, for sure. I think the words of inspiration I would give somebody else, or what I would give myself,
Mm,
um, that being to remember perseverance and to remember patience, especially.
mm,
Uh, Patience has been the name of the game for me, and I think in a era in a culture of instant gratification, you know,
mm,
increasingly being the priority, you kind of lose sight of the fact that this artist journey is a long, it's a long arc, and it should be. It's not those dreams I was talking about. May or may not happen, but you're striving towards them, and the
yeah.
reality is that it takes, especially depending on the the everybody has their own lane, I should say. Some people have visions that come about real quick. Some people have visions that come about more glacially. And I think there is something to be proud of in everybody's own style. And that's actually another thing that I would say is really important, is to know exactly what, or to be open to learn about how you learn, how you express, and to make room for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Make room for that particular kind of expression to breathe and have its space in ways that may be defiant to the standard. And don't apologize for it. You feel me? Like don't feel like you don't fit, um, but make it make sense both to yourself and to the people that are witnessing you do your thing. Um, but that patience part, man, I just really feel like it's so important, because
Yeah.
it'll really allow you to ride the waves of everything, you know, regardless of what life throws at you, which is a lot, you know, and even after you get what you want per se, there's still more trials, more victories to be achieved and to go through, you know. So,
Mm.
and I think just my final thing, patience is just often something that's forgotten, you know, both individually and kind of collectively. And especially because we want what we want so immediately that it really does take a lot of reminding continuously to be patient, you know, and to
Yeah.
persevere, like I said, to like continuously strive after it with urgency, you know, because we never know which breath is going to be our last. So that's what I would say.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much to the both of you, Nova, Zaii, and Allan Coding. Thank you so much for your time. This has been a look. I enjoy the both of you. It is very fulfilling and making me full, and I'm sure, and hopefully it did the same for our audience tonight as well. So thank you to the both of you once again. Thank you so much for joining us today for this very fascinating conversation. I had a great time, and we hope you did as well. We hope that you leave feeling more deeply connected to these talented artists. Please continue to remain in connection with our artists. You are invited to stay in touch with Allan Coding and Nova Zaii. Please refer them or refer your contact in our chat. We will be taking them. So please make sure that you drop your information. And moving forward, if you'd like to rewatch this program or share this program, you can do so at Kresge Arts in Detroit presents.art. And we'll have that in the next few days. We also hope that you join us for our next installment of this fascinating series, Virtual Artist Salon series. It will continue Friday, March 3rd at 6 p.m. You don't want to miss it when we have that next one featuring artist Detroit Bureau of Sound and Tammy Lackus, moderated by WDET's Chris Campbell. So make sure that you tune in for that this week, and you can learn more and register for the salon using the link in the chat. Thank you so much on behalf of the Kresge Arts in Detroit and WDET for making today's salon such a meaningful space. Until next time, I'm Andre Ash. Have a great evening, everybody.